We really do need to continue and to really strive to provide world-class education for everyone.
In Minnesota, you can do almost anything you want on a Sunday.
It's been my honor to serve. It's a great responsibility and a great opportunity.
Jim had driven every one of those trains. They all had high-speed rail.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by lefty volunteers, mostly Democrats, for the entire metro region. Here's producer Jeff Strate.
Welcome to Democratic Visions. It's light rail time again, and each of the 5 cities on the Southwest Light Rail Project will have had something called municipal consent hearings.
Yes.
And of course, that's a lot of verbiage, but what that means is that preliminary plans on the project's alignment and station locations are getting another go-through by the public.
We have a number of buildings in the Golden Triangle area.
St. Louis Park, Hopkins, Minnetonka, and Eden Prairie are digesting what they have heard and will be modifying the plan to better suit their cities. Minneapolis will follow suit. I attended the May 20th municipal consent hearing in Eden Prairie. The hearing was preceded by an informational open house. Southwest LRT project staff answered questions about track alignment and station locations of the current preliminary design. Similar meetings were held during the project's earlier phases. Current plans for Eden Prairie include 5 stations along an alignment that begins near City Hall. It follows Technology Drive to Southwest Station, which will serve both light rail and Southwest Transit buses. From the Southwest Station, the line zigzags to our town center area, then along Flying Cloud Road, through the Golden Triangle, and on to Minnetonka. On June 17, the Eden Prairie City Council can approve the Southwest LRT preliminary plan for Eden Prairie, or it can reject it. A no vote from any of the 5 cities would prompt further changes and delays.
First of all, seriously, in real life, what's the hurry? It sounds like there's not been a full impact research on this.
And that's more or less the strategy of those who oppose light rail. They want it delayed. Maybe Governor Dayton won't be reelected. Maybe the federal funding will fall short. And maybe the new legislature won't be so supportive. The nature of these kinds of public hearings is that they draw more opponents than proponents. That happened on May 20th. But legitimate issues were raised by all sides, especially from a number of businesses along the alignment.
The Prime Tech Office Park, most all of the buildings.
There's going to be a bridge flying over within 55 feet.
The draft environmental impact statement that was prepared was based upon a highway.
If it's going to go in, I think many of our tenants will use the light rail and will be happy to have it there.
Our committee views this project as vital to the economic development and improved mobility of commuters throughout the entire metropolitan region.
It will complement the excellent bus service provided by Southwest Transit and create opportunities.
We are supporting it because it's going to create thousands of jobs.
So Gander Mountain just briefly wants to offer its support.
I can't imagine this unsightly eyesore with all its overhead wires and the constant ding, ding, ding noise.
And there was also conjecture and rant by the naysayers.
I don't understand.
Some of these comments seem to be inspired by the right-wing playbook. False analogies, fear, hyperbole. Here's a sampling.
The Southwest Light Rail tracks will cross 3 of the 5 most dangerous intersections in Eden Prairie, putting our citizens in grave danger.
Our bus system, Southwest Metro, is going to suffer if LRT is built.
I understand that after the light rail was built to the Mall of America, crime went up 100%.
I'm worried about the crime. What this is going to bring into the community.
I suppose it's to build it and they'll come and then we'll put up all this affordable housing around it, but
the Met Council and its child Met Transit have concocted a bundt cake full of lies upon
These meetings are stacked. I know you're going to vote for it. I do. I know it's done.
It just continues on, and government organizations don't really seek the opinion of people that they serve.
Now, the current plan did not spring from a Met Council bunker of covert planners, social engineers, and rail fans. Rather, the preliminary plan is a work in progress to take on the challenges of our unique geography, our intersecting regional freeways, and our community and economic well-being. As test trains cruised along University Avenue in mid-May, Met Council Chair Susan Haig announced that $2.5 billion have been invested along the Green Line corridor between the downtowns of St. Paul and Minneapolis. St. Louis Park, Hopkins, Minnetonka, Eden Prairie will be the Green Line's southwestern extension.
If we look out 25, 30 years, the ability to connect in both directions between Eden Prairie and downtown Minneapolis, and by extension St. Paul through the new central light rail line, is going to be important for job growth along the corridor. Fact is, as we heard tonight, I mean, the changing demographics and growth of Eden Prairie do make inbound transit a priority, and frankly, employers are looking to engage with employees that are located within the Twin Cities urban core for outward mobility.
When we talk about light rail, we are investing for our children, for our future. It is going to cost money, but it is going to cost a lot less than trying to expand highways.
Anyone else that wants to speak that didn't get an opportunity? Yes.
Good evening.
It is a process. Now,
I want to see how much energy there is, because you know what? Republicans are counting on us to stay home. They're counting on us to just sort of take it for granted that we're going to win these elections because we've done good things. Now,
on May 3rd, the DFL Party of Congressional District 3 gathered in Maple Grove for its annual convention. It was very much a family affair.
So we decided it was time to come out of the closet and declare we were Democrats. And
I come from a long line of dairy farmers. My dad was the first generation out there.
Sharon, please join us.
We stand up for senior citizens to make sure that after a lifetime of...
We're living in a time when the wealthy are getting wealthier and the middle class is shrinking.
And I am here to speak on behalf of my friend and State Representative Steve Simon.
Thank you very much.
And so as your state auditor, I want to make sure we continue our legacy of good government and of good public pension systems. Remember, after all, we do things better than most places. And all the women in Minnesota are strong. All the men are good looking. And all of our children are above average. Thank you.
You look at our communities, we are the economic engine of the state. If you look at coming through the recession, it is the companies housed in our communities that have led our state and continue to lead the nation.
Jim Klobuchar. Jim spoke on behalf of his daughter Amy, our senior senator. He shared thoughts about former Congressman Jim Oberstar, who had passed away earlier in the morning.
Jim Oberstar was a mentor and a friend and a man of true purpose and grit. His purpose? To make life better for the people of northern Minnesota and our world.
The gathered also bid an affectionate farewell to retiring Minnesota House member John Benson of Minnetonka.
You know, it's been my honor to serve. It's a great responsibility and a great opportunity. I'm so grateful I had that chance. And it's hard to believe, but I've been running for office for 10 years, serving 8 in the Minnesota House of Representatives.
All right.
We didn't have a single Republican in the House of Representatives who voted to increase the minimum wage. Not one. And you know, if we want to do some grassroots work, if we put out a little piece of lead, and I'd be willing to be out there in the parking lots with anybody who wanted to join me, and we say, you're going to get a $1 increase, sorry it isn't more, but the next year you're going to get another $1, and you deserve this money, and do you know that the Republican who may win this seat would never have supported it? You want to get a decent wage, you want to keep it? Here it is. You better register, you better vote Democratic, because these things don't come just because they fell off a tree. It's because the Democrats did it. So, there's a little challenge.
The 3rd District also got down to the business of endorsing a candidate to represent us in Washington. We've been coasting with the GOP's Eric Paulson for nearly 6 years. This time around, it was easy for the 3rd. George Green of Brooklyn Park had the honor of nominating Sharon Sund of Plymouth.
And I'd like to place into nomination the name of Sharon Sund.
Great, thank you. Actually do the endorsement. All those in favor of endorsing Sharon Sund to the U.S. House of Representatives, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Sharon, please join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. This is moving pretty fast today. We can only push forward our agenda, the great values that we have here in Minnesota. We can only do it if we send representatives to Washington that share our common Minnesota values. I'm running because we are all in this together. I'm running because someone fought for me to have the opportunities that I have had. And sadly, I see those doors closing for others today. As the daughter of a working class IBEW union member, I saw firsthand the benefits of supporting workers' rights to organize and earn fair pay. The truth is, I wouldn't have been able to attend McAllister College or be where I am today had it not been for those fair union wages and the support of my family along the way. Right now, the power to win, I see it right now.
Now, another important endorsement was secured by Joan Howe-Pullis. Joan and her family live in South Eden Prairie. She is our candidate for House District 48B.
Yeah.
Welcome to Democratic Visions.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, why are you running?
I think that we need to have a government that works for everybody. In Eden Prairie, we've got this incredibly diverse community.
We're not all the same, are we?
We are not all the same.
Okay.
And when we discover that that's not a threat to us, that that's actually a good thing, we all get to contribute to what the community could be. Eden Prairie is a great place to live, but we really do need to continue and to really strive to provide world-class education for everyone. We need to make sure that we've got a funding stream that doesn't get yanked around from year to year in education. We need to make sure our schools are safe and supportive for all kids. And then on top of that, we really need to solve our transportation issues. And we're going to do that by comprehensive transportation so that everyone in Eden Prairie gets an opportunity to have their transportation issues solved.
Trends show, polls show that younger folks and seniors
That's
prefer to take a bus or a train. Now, of course, Eden Prairie, at the city level, chambers of commerce and our business community wants LRT to come through.
When we get connected by light rail, there's an enormous amount of economic opportunity that happens in Eden Prairie.
It's going to make us competitive in a world market.
Right. And those two things, transportation and education, help with the job growth, fair wages, women's economic security. All of those things come along with education and transportation. It's a whole package. It's a whole circle.
Joan, tell me about your family.
I have a husband, John, of 32 years, and a son, Jake, who just graduated from college last week, and that's our family.
What's your profession?
I've done a lot of things. I was an English teacher for a short time, a high school English teacher, and I continue to substitute teach every place we've ever lived. Love teaching kids, especially middle school. I was an actor in New York City for a time until my husband and I said it was time to have kids. At that point, we moved out of the city in New York and did some traveling around for his career, which my husband's a chef.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So I was a full-time mom, mostly, and then also I have done a huge amount of volunteer ministry work at Pax Christi in liturgy, in faith formation. I'm a cantor for liturgy services and for funerals. And then I also was a lay liturgical preacher at Pax Christi as well.
You've been around.
Yes. Working every year with the Interfaith Thanksgiving prayer service, I'm part of a planning team, and we've been doing this for 8 years.
When does that happen?
That happens the Sunday before Thanksgiving every year.
Okay. Who attends the event?
Anyone can come. Anyone can participate in planning it.
Any faith?
And every faith.
Okay.
It's specifically interfaith, meaning every faith. There are two areas in life that people usually say you don't want to talk about: religion and politics, because those things could be really dicey to talk about with people.
Sure.
What I discovered was that people in Eden Prairie are fearless and committed to being connected to one another. This planning event for me has been just an enormous opportunity to get that we can actually really talk about the things that really matter to us. We can actually really ultimately learn the larger truth of our democracy, which is that we all get to belong. We all get to have our faith, our beliefs, who we are uniquely, and we can respect one another and grow from it.
So all of these
So
get indented.
these become
You live in South Eden Prairie, 48B. I like Jennifer Loon.
I do.
But what are you going to bring to St. Paul that Jennifer Loon has been unable or unwilling to bring?
Listening to everyone in the community in a way that goes beyond partisan politics, and to be a yes, that we can solve problems, not a no, that that's not possible right now.
Joan, as you know, Minnesota lawmakers went home a few days earlier than expected. The electeds of both parties are now out and about, handing out bouquets or tossing darts at one another and smiling at any voter within a mile. Now, one proposed law, the one that would permit liquor stores to sell on Sunday, did not make it. It failed. They're going to have to come back with it next year. Now, commentator and MinnPost contributor Mary Stanik has some thoughts about that.
In Minnesota, you can do almost anything you want on a Sunday. Watch porn on the internet, bear false witness against your neighbor, drive to Wisconsin, where there's a liquor store every 500 yards ready to snatch Minnesota money, commit adultery in your heart, or for real. But buy liquor in a liquor store? As the song goes, without bouzouki, because this is still Minnesota and not Greece, never on Sunday. And for those of you who don't know about the film where this song comes from, there was a 1960 movie featuring let's call her a working girl in Greece. She worked very hard 6 days a week selling her considerable charms and attractions. But like Minnesota liquor store sales, never on Sunday. This year's session for the Minnesota legislature ended on Friday, May 16. Veteran legislature watcher Pat Kessler of WCCO TV called it an unusually short but productive session. Still, bills the House and Senate failed to pass included those that would have lifted Minnesota's ban on Sunday liquor sales, including the sale of craft beer growlers, which are half-gallon glass jugs that are filled from a tapped barrel. So I'm guessing a beer or a cocktail might sound good to a lot of you most any day of the week, and perhaps especially on a Sunday when you're dreading Monday's arrival. But here in the land of sky blue beer waters, unless you have more in your liquor cabinet besides old flamingo straws, you are out of luck. Do some of you not know the connection between beer and sky blue waters? Well, long, long ago, before your mother was born, there was a beer, Hamm's, that was made in the land of sky blue waters. The commercials were great. They featured a fishing bear that liked beer and a catchy song that many thought was Minnesota's state anthem. As for Sunday, many liquor store owners in this state say they need that day as their day of rest. Come to think of it, I always wondered why church parking lots were so crowded. And now I think it's because they were full of the cars of liquor store owners. So, for those who want to buy liquor in liquor stores on Sunday, and for those store owners who want to keep their day off, there's always the promise that may come as a result of the November elections and the 2015 legislative session. But what if you don't like beer? Perhaps you prefer your alcohol to smile rather than, with apologies to Eartha Kitt, growl. In St. Paul, I'm Mary Stanik, somewhere between a beer and a prayer.
Now, before we go, I want you to hear Senator Al Franken's thoughts on Jim Oberstar. Minnesota's longest-serving congressman died peacefully in his Maryland home on May 3rd. Al Franken spoke to several congressional district conventions hours after learning of Jim Oberstar's death.
I've advocated a national health care system as long as I've served in Congress. Today, we take a decisive step toward that goal. This is not a perfect bill, but a good bill. The three committees have worked hard to address the needs of the people of my district and my own concerns, regional disparities in Medicare reimbursement that penalize Minnesota health.
We lost a giant last night. I talked to Gene about a half hour ago. I said to Gene, well, you know, Jim Oberstar died in his sleep. And I said, well, at least he missed the worst years of his life. And she said, yeah, right, I said that. She said, you know, he was vibrant all the way to yesterday. And just died in his sleep. And she said, I think this happened this way because he didn't deserve anything else. I just want to talk about Jim and what Jim means to be a public servant. I'm not going to be in the 8th today, so I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter saying that Jim was a public servant virtually all his life, served the 8th District all his life. Before he was in the House, he was on staff there. By the time he became chairman, and probably before, he was the most knowledgeable man about transportation in the United States of America. People about transportation in the world. The first time I saw him chair Transportation Committee, it was a hearing on high-speed rail. And he had called these witnesses from all over the world, from China and France and Japan, and I think another country, Germany or something. And when it finally got to his point of questioning, I learned that Jim had driven every one of those trains. They all had high-speed rail, and he had driven every one of their systems. And when it got to the French witness, he asked his question in fluent, elegant French. It was a tour de force, which I believe it is French. He was pretty amazing. I think I wrote in the letter, I said if Jim was writing this letter about himself, it wouldn't take long before he would get into the history of transportation in the United States, starting with the Erie Canal, which was a state project. That was the state of New York, and taking us all the way to internet broadband. Jim understood what we understand as Democrats, as DFLers, that prosperity is based on three things: on investments in education and infrastructure, whether that means our ports, or our roads and bridges, or rail, or internet. He knew that. And on research and development. I remember the visitor center in Voyager Park is named for Jim, and I went there. And I said, he's going to talk about the history of this project, the history of Voyager Park, the legislative history of it, and he's also going to talk about the voyageurs. And some of that he's going to do in French. And I was right. I nailed it. Here's the thing about Jim, and it's the thing I cherish about Jim. He was interested in knowledge. Not just information. We have public servants who are interested in just enough information to get reelected. Jim could go on and on sometimes. And it was because when you talk to Jim, he had this knowledge that he wanted to share because he felt that everyone wanted this knowledge. He wasn't a guy who was fascinated with his own brain. He was fascinated by what he had learned, by the way things work. He wanted to figure out how things work. That's what a good public servant is about. That's what this job is about to me. That's what all our public servants' jobs should really be about, is trying to figure out how do things work and solve problems, how to do that. And that was Jim. Jim was a shining example of that. I can't believe he's not going to be there when I'm back in D.C. Me and Gene have a house in Maryland. And I would call on him for knowledge and advice. And he was vibrant. I mean, he understood the importance of bike trails. He understood the importance. He said, let's go from a hydrocarbon transportation system to a carbohydrate transportation system. We were all blessed to have this guy. Not just the 8th, not just Minnesota, not just the country, but the world was blessed by having Jim Oberstar. We were really privileged. And what a great family man. He and Jean both lost the loves of their life and found each other. I'm sad today, but I'm so grateful to have known Jim. And I think we ought to be grateful for him too.
Thanks for being with us. Until next time.
Democratic Visions is independently crafted by volunteers, mostly Democrats, from Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Edina, and Bloomington. The presentation of guests and opinions on this program does not indicate endorsement by the state DFL party or DFL Senate District 48.